What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Champion Living Podcast, where we believe that consistency, perseverance, and not taking life too seriously are the keys to success. I'm Doug, the founder and owner and head coach of Champion Living Fitness. Each week, I'll be joined by my coaching staff with the vision of providing trustworthy information about fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and how this all applies to being a professional rodeo athlete, as well as people from all walks of life. Are you ready to become a champion? Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines for sport of rodeo fitness. Today's episode, we're just free rolling it. We got Tyler with me. You guys are on the road to Texas for our Optimal Performance Academy that's taking place this weekend. So we're spread out everywhere. We got a lot of things going on this week. So we're just going to jump on quickly, chat about some new opportunities that we have within Champion Living Fitness for athletes, and some cool things that our coaches are doing to build the culture of what we're doing. And so I want to cover that, and specifically something Tyler's been working on. But how are you today, brother?
I'm doing good. I've been super busy, just getting ready for this season coming up, just like all of us. Yeah. Bummed that I'm not going to make OPA this week, but got to get married at some point.
You got to be there for that. Actually, me and my brother both didn't go to each other's weddings. We just sent in recordings, and Richie was at Sioux Falls last year, and then I had something going on when he got married, and he got married in like rural Canada. And so it was just one of those deals. So yeah, our family tradition apparently is not showing up to each other's weddings, but I'm glad you're going to your brother's. That's going to be awesome. Where is it?
It's back home. So it'll be in Missouri. So we're going to go back. That's where he lives at.
Yeah. And you're from Missouri. Let's jump into, we don't get to hear from you a lot on here. You're behind the scenes. You're doing all of our production and producing and making sure we sound decent and our videos look good. So I want people to get to know you, because you're a huge part of our team, not just on the production side, but as a coach, you're invaluable, man. Like you're priceless when it comes to your education and what you provide for your athletes and what you bring to our team. So I want to give people a chance to get to know you for a second, and why you are doing what you're doing today. And you started with me, I think 3 years ago now, and you own another gym now. You have a concrete place that you are operating. You're running a full-time remote training business as well. You're a dad. There's a lot of things to balance there. So I want to jump into that, and then how your rodeo background, where you got into that, and how that you are where you are today. So let's jump into, let's just go to the beginning, bro. Like, did you grow up rodeo and you come from a rodeo family?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My dad rodeoed like a lot of pro amateur and did a little bit of pro rodeo for about 15 years. I think he finally retired around like 40, 42, something like that, whenever he finally quit riding. But so we grew up in it. Me and my brothers, we were in mutton bust, and my mom actually started. She was like part of the rodeo company that started the Missouri Family Rodeo Association way back in the day. So mom and dad like kicked that off. Dad was bull riding director and stuff for a long time there. So that was our whole life growing up, was just rodeoing until I got to about middle school. Started playing team sports, and she was always hesitant on letting us rodeo while we were playing baseball or football or basketball. She's like, if you get hurt, you let your team down. So that was a big thing, to where whenever I got into high school, I didn't high school rodeo or anything like that, but I went to team sports, and then went to college to play baseball, run cross country. So did that at the next level, played for about a year, and then had an injury to my hip. I broke my hip while I was running. I stepped in a hole in a meet, broke my hip. And then, I went from there, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to riding bulls if I'm just going to get hurt running. So I went back to riding bulls, and I've just been riding ever since. I was like 18 or 19 when that happened. Went back to riding and started a lot of pro amateur deals around Missouri that I would go to quite a bit. And then pro rodeo, went to a few PBRs, doing like touring pros, things like that in the beginning. But yeah, I've been doing that now for 12 years.
So obviously, what were your like, maybe you didn't accomplish these dreams, but when you started, what were your dreams with bull riding?
Man,
or were you just wanting to just like be healthy, have fun, get as many bulls as you could? Like, where was your head at?
When I first started, it was more on the PBR side of things. Like I wanted to get on tour, and that was kind of a huge deal for me, but I lacked the confidence in myself big time. And so it was a lot of just trying to get there. And so when always felt like I would get ahead and I would start making the moves that I needed to make to get there. Like started going to a lot of the touring pros and things to build up the rankings to get to like velocity events and then be able to go. But then like something would happen, injury would happen,
Mhm.
something would come up, and then it just like it was like 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. And so that was one of the hardest things. But the PBR was my goal in the beginning. And then whenever we moved from Missouri to Colorado, I went back to rodeo. I just enjoyed the atmosphere, and then from there, I just wanted to be a circuit. I just wanted to go to the circuit finals. I didn't want to go to the NFR or anything like that. I just enjoy riding bulls. So
Mhm.
that was the biggest thing for me.
Dude, I love that because I think it's just a natural tendency that most people that get on bulls or ride rough stock, or even a lot of majority of people that rodeo, their mindset is just they're a competitive person. They naturally want to gravitate towards the highest level. And I tell guys all the time and girls, like, there is nothing wrong with circuit rodeoing and doing it because you love it. And you can still make a great supplemental income based off of circuit rodeos and go to the circuit finals and have a family and not be spread so thin. And also, you can have other ways of income, like being a coach, or you operate another gym, and you still continue to rodeo and get on bulls, which is badass, man. That's what it's all about. And we've always said that just make rodeo what you want. Not everyone's going to go to the NFR. Not everyone should want to go to the NFR. Like, just make it whatever lines up for you. And the fitness part of that ties into all of those levels. So whether you want to go to the NFR or you just want to be a competitive circuit guy or just go to amateur rodeos and clean house there, you still need to be preparing yourself physically. And I heard you talk about confidence in your younger part of your career and how you lacked it. I assume that you were working out throughout that just because of coming from sports. You knew that physical fitness is going to have to be a part of that. What did your training look like then compared to now?
It definitely doesn't look like now, that's for sure. Like in college, it was more of I worked out because I had to for
Mhm.
those sports. But even then, like there wasn't much guidance in that realm, even in high school. And I talk about that today is like there's such a lack of helping kids in the weight room in high school. Like coaches just write something up, say go do it, and then whether you do it or not, that's like on you.
Mhm.
And so in the beginning, my training just mimicked what I do in baseball or whatever. I just go in and lift, and most of the time it's bodybuilding type stuff or just straight strength stuff. And it wasn't until I started, like, I went to school for kinesiology and started really diving into it a little bit more. And I shattered my jaw riding bulls and lost like 15 pounds, came back 4 months later, re shattered it again. And so I lost another 15 pounds. So I went from 150 down to like 118 pounds.
Mm.
And so that comeback there was like, hey, I got to change something. Like something has to change because it was more of the injury happened because of what I lacked than what I was doing, like than what I
Mhm.
had. It wasn't necessarily my skill. It was just I wasn't strong enough to hold the front or wasn't strong enough to get back to different positions. And then that's what ultimately what got it broke. And so then I started diving into it deeper of, hey, I gotta change some things, and that's where ultimately, like, my training now is more still performance based, like sprints, jumps, things like that, like things that I enjoyed in competing with baseball and things like that, but it's a lot more structured. Things are I'm doing them for a reason. There's an intention behind the program now than just a random thing you could find on the internet kinda thing.
How long did it take to rebuild from that 118 to where you are now?
I would say it probably took me about once I could start eating again, I was probably it probably took me 6 months to a year to get to at least back up to fighting weight of like
Mhm.
140-ish, and then from
Mhm.
there, it's always been a hard struggle to get to 150, 155, and then stay there. For me, I was just naturally a smaller kid, but
Mhm.
it's a constant battle of making sure that you're eating enough to stay at that weight and everything like that so you don't drop back down. But yeah, it was a good year before I was able to have that strength and stuff recuperated from that big of a drop.
Hmm. That's such an important point to bring up because I just had a kid message me the other day, and we hear this regularly that I got injured. Doc says it's going to be 6 to 8 months. How do I come back quicker? And my one answer is you don't. Like, you listen to the doctor. Pushing these things is not going to help you. And so the whole point of me asking how long that was, that's a year, y'all that are listening. 1 year that he took of just rebuilding himself because he knew what he was doing was not working because he was getting the same results from it. If you're that person, whether it's that serious, like you shattered your jaw 2 times in a row, or less serious and you want different results, you have to be able to identify what the weaknesses are and be realistic about the time frame to get to that point where they are no longer weaknesses, and weaknesses don't become strengths in a couple weeks or even 2 months. It takes a long time and a lot of consistency to build that. And just listening to that, it's his jaw, y'all. It has nothing to do with him holding on to the bull. Like, he could have I'm sure he was cleared long before that, but he knew that physically his body was not ready for that kind of beating if something went wrong. And I think that we forget that a lot as athletes, even as general people. We're like, oh, it's fine. I can go do something. And then you go do it and you mess it up even more. And we're just setting ourselves further down in this hole. So you have to be realistic about the time frames, and you have to be okay with it taking longer than you want it to because
Yeah.
that is what gets the best results. Is I'm sure you're free, like you're probably jonesing to get on in that.
I had to turn out of a finals actually because of it. The break happened in August. I think our finals was in December. Like, I was cleared to come back, but yeah, 120 pounds going up against the best bulls this was in the NFPB, National Federation of Professional Bull Riders, back in Missouri. And the bulls that they take to their finals are no joke. It just being in that area, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, like, you're getting on some of the best stuff, regardless if you're at an amateur deal or a pro deal. Yeah, I had to turn. I got the call that, hey, you're in and everything, and I remember sitting at the table. My wife was there, which we were just engaged at that time, but she looked at me. She's like, no, like, I could just see it on her face. She's like, you're 120 pounds. You're not even as durable at 140, 150, let alone 120. Like, there's no way you're gonna be able. And so, like, it took a little bit of a few talks from my wife and my dad to beat it into me that, hey, this probably isn't the best idea. And then sure enough, took an extra month after those finals. Like, I didn't go to there, and then even the extra month, first one back, popped me again and just redid it, rebroke everything. So it was probably a good decision to not go to that finals, because the bull I got on after that he definitely wasn't at the caliber that they were at the finals. So
Bull riding stuff, dude. It's tough. That's
it just happens, man.
To have it happen like that consecutively is hard, and I think that's probably where you are. The reason why you are where you are today is having to rebuild yourself so much over your career. And that's my same story too. Is I got hurt bad and nobody knew what to do or could tell me how to fix myself to get back to rodeo, so I just figured it out on my own. And I think not that, like, this is going to sound bad or conceited, but I feel like people that do that are so much better at coaching because they've dealt with it on such a personal level, that these things that come up, especially in the mind during this whole process of this is taking so dang long, or I just want to go do this. You've been there before, and you can help your clients through those times of saying, I get it. I understand that feeling. But if you stay hooked and stay committed to the end process here and just keep doing what you're supposed to do, even though you don't really want to, you're going to get so much further in the future. And it's working through those mind blocks and those mental blocks of, it's something new or something different for you. And so we fight new and different off as much as we can. Usually we are not comfortable with new things. So the quicker you can get comfortable with trusting those new processes, the further you're going to get, as long as those processes are like lining up on paper towards your goals. But is that why you do what you do now? Is that why you became
Oh
a
yeah.
coach, or
Yep.
what's
So
the story there?
that acts like that wreck essentially is what lit me up to start coaching. Taking that next year, because that happened in 2016, I took that whole next year to just focus on myself. I still competed and rode and everything even after the second one. I don't know, this couple of months later, I started getting back on them again and continued to ride and went through school. And I was going to school for, like I said, kinesiology. I was planning on being a physical therapist. And I went to, we had a lecture, and one of the guys that was there was, or it was my professor at the time. He was like, you could do very similar to what you could do very similar to that right now. Like you could start your own business in personal training. So he was like, just go get certified. You don't have to you don't have to finish your school yet. You can you can go ahead and get that right now. So I went, started studying for that, got my CPT, and then just started working with clients and mainly just like weight loss, muscle building, things like that at first. And yeah, it's what drove me into the coaching path. And then I had heard a podcast. It was Devin Riley's podcast, and you was on it. And I remember telling my wife, and this was during COVID. We just moved to Colorado, and I'd been coaching. I got certified in end of 17, started coaching 18. So a couple years went by. We finally decided we wanted to move during COVID. Heard you on the podcast, and I remember telling my wife, I was like, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work for that guy one day. I'm gonna be working with him. And it, sure enough, man, it was a year later. Logan messaged me, and then all of a sudden you messaged me. I was like, "Hey man, I got an opportunity." And it was the craziest thing ever. You want to talk about being able to like envision where you want to go and
Uh-huh.
speaking it to existence. That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. It's pretty wild. But I'd always wanted to help rodeo athletes because I had gone through, gone through those same things that everybody
Mhm.
else is going through. And like you said, it almost makes us better as coaches, being that we had to go through those struggles, because some guys I don't want to say it comes easy to them, but it like it's more natural at
Mhm.
times for them, or maybe they
They
didn't
can't
have,
explain what they're doing.
yeah, maybe they didn't have the hardship that it takes that somebody else is going through. And you hear that a lot. And like that's one
Mhm.
of the biggest thing I tell my clients. They're like, "Oh man, one day it'll just click." And it's like, "Nah, it takes about a year worth of just clicking before
Mhm.
things become that way." And it's a lot of times it's just they don't remember what it was to take it to that spot. But yeah, that was
Oh,
my
yeah,
journey to coaching for sure.
that's really cool, dude. That's so similar to mine. And I don't know if you've heard this before, but the best coaches are usually the guys who were not the best players that had to try extra hard at what they were doing because they had to learn everything. Those naturally talented guys, a lot of times, they can't even explain what they're doing if it came to like being a coachable series, if that's, or yeah, I guess I'll call it
Yeah.
that. But I've seen it all the time in bareback riding. You get these guys that have been in the finals a million times, and we're at a school, and they get on, and I'm like, "What? How do you do what you do?" And they cannot reciprocate that. They cannot tell me with words. They can only show you, and then half the time, I'm like, that doesn't even look right." But good for you. Keep doing what you're doing. You like you said, there's some guys that just pick it up, and they just won't be able to be as good at coaches. And then there's guys that majority of the time that had to try really hard that they end up making the best coaches. I will die on this hill that just because you're a world champ does not mean that you're a good instructor. And that's just how it is. But that's a cool story, man. And pretty serendipitous about thinking that. And then here we are, or there we were a year later, and you were exactly where you said you were going to be. And here we are 3 years after that, and we are way further than I ever thought we'd be. So it's really cool to see and look back, and it doesn't feel like that long ago. It feels like yesterday. I can remember when you said Devin's podcast, I had a flashback of sitting on my couch in Texas had doing that podcast. I'm like, wow, that was 5 years ago or whatever. That's insane. Let's jump in really quickly to what you've just launched. And our coaches are doing this across multiple events. I talked about it with Paul, I think, on last episode or episode before that, about his bull riding accountability group, if you will. You have just launched one for Bullfighters. which I think is so cool and is one of the events that it's growing so rapidly. Freestyle bullfighting, even protection match bullfighting, like any bullfighter, this is going to be your group for you. Can you run us through what it's about, why it's so cool, and how guys can get involved?
Yeah, so I started, just like Paul and Logan, I started a group for bullfighters. It's called the Fighter's Edge. And so it is both protection and freestyle guys. But there's an emphasis. Like I have a question in there of like, what is your primary? Because it's a totally different animal when you're prepping guys for their, as far as the strength and conditioning program goes, for freestyle fights and for protection fights. There's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of difference. So it's just so the group is focused on the main three things that I felt like bullfighters needed, and that was the training side of it, so that your fitness, your nutrition, having those sides of the program, and then we go into the mindset, building your confidence, stacking wins, how to make sure that you're going to be composed during the fights in your different situations. And then the last element was the business side of it. We oftentimes see bullfighters fight to the bottom, and it's such a struggle. And I know as a bull rider, I've never fought bulls before, but as a bull rider, it's so important to have the guys out there that have your back and
Mm-hmm.
that are going to protect you. And so that element alone was a big reason why I started it. It's like I've seen it firsthand where you show up and the guys aren't necessarily in the best shape and they can't protect you. Not
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to or not because they don't know how to, they just physically can't. And so that's kind of the big reason why I got into it. And I have a couple of really good bullfighters that I have coached in the past and just thought, man, this is where they need to take it. And in my opinion, man, they're some of the most athletic dudes in rodeo. Like they have to be. They're
I
running, jumping, sprinting, like they have to be.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's one of those it they it's the most athletic event in the rodeo world because you have to change direction on your own feet. You have to do a million different things: jumping, accelerating, decelerating. Agility has to be at max, and they have to be able to be under control throughout all that. And on top of that, they have to be able to do it for a long amount of time. It in freestyle, is it 60 seconds or 90? How long is it?
Yeah, you got a 40-second like minimum, and then you get a 20-second bonus. So
Okay,
so
60
like
seconds at
yeah.
max effort.
Yeah, so my like that, and that's part of the process with the conditioning side is like,
Hmm.
man, can you guys go all out for 40 seconds? Because you may not need it all the time. Like you're gonna have spurts where you're gonna create separation, you're gonna get a quick breath and go in. But yeah, if you can't go that 40 seconds, because what happens if you got a bull that's hooked up? Like, dude, you're not getting away from him that easy.
We saw it a lot last year at BFO at the finals, where the elite guys could stay hooked for that last 20 seconds and keep pushing. And you could see those guys that were maybe pretty talented, but were lacking on the conditioning, which that last 20 seconds, it ended really bad. Not like really bad, but it messed up their
Yeah.
score a lot. And it showed that they were gassed and that bull got the best of them. Those guys like Luke, or both Lukes, Yancey, and yes, Ballard. Those guys are doing the work. They're putting in the time into their conditioning, into their preparation, and having a plan that is designed for you and for bullfighters is the most important thing here. And don't get me wrong, you can go and get fit and do this thing without a coach. But if what we see is they're just doing the wrong things, they're running a ton, but running the wrong way. And I don't mean in their form, just the wrong systems. They're not targeting the right systems. Like you have to know all of these things about the time frames in the body and how energy systems work in order to put together a proper training program. And as a bullfighter, that is not your job to be a professional at that. Your job is to be the best bullfighter you can. So why not? What is the weekly charge for this group, man? It's like
To get started, it's $50. $50 a week.
$50 a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's less than $10 a day for the whole entire week. And you get access to a full training program with demo videos. You get a entire community where you can ask questions in the group. You are getting on there weekly, answering questions personally live. Like, what else is going on in there?
Yeah, we have different areas of the group of like we have the weekly trainings where it's pre-recorded thing. And so sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's the business side, and it's just a pre-recorded slideshow essentially of me breaking down different elements of what you need as a bullfighter. And then we have like guys are sharing their wins in there. And we've got, I think right now I've got 12 or 13 guys in just from the first round of the launch. But we have a spot in there called the battle arena where they can upload their fights and then we break it down. And so the cool thing is we've got these other bullfighters in there that are going to help you with your more skill oriented aspects of like the mental side of what's happening during a fight, how to control this and that. The guys are helping each other out, but then I get to come in and break it down from the fitness side of it. What move are you making and how can we make this better? How can we make it sharper? The mental aspect of the fight or flight response. When a bull lines you out, like how do we overcome that flight and make the move you need to make to get back into the game and not get pushed out and run up on the fence? And so it's like these things we're able to break it down and slow it down on video and give responses to them and just let guys see like, hey, as a bullfighter, you might see one thing, but as a fitness professional and the biomechanics and everything of how you're moving, we can do this thing in your training. I need you to focus here on these different exercises and it's going to make this better. And so it's just we get to go so much more in depth of like with the community, the things that are happening in and out, and then also just like little things like time management. How are you gonna what's the most important things for you guys to take your career to the next level? And so it's just a really cool concept and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's getting to watch the fights and break it all down that's a lot of fun for me. So
Dude, that's really cool. You said you had this first launch. When is your second launch taking place?
so I'm gonna launch right now when this podcast is going on. It'll be 1 week after this launch, this podcast. So
Okay.
it will be the
About the 18th.
yes, I believe so.
So November 18th will be the next launch. Make sure you guys follow Tyler. What's your Instagram, brother?
It's at Coach Tyler B.
At Coach Tyler B. Shoot him a message, drop comments, whatever. He'll be posting a lot about this launch. And so you guys can get, if you are a bull rider or bareback rider, Logan has the bareback riding program that is set up just like this. And Paul has one for bull riding and barrel racers. We are launching one with Meg. I think she is almost fully set up. So we'll be having a lot of opportunities like this for all of the events to come. What else you got, brother? Anything to finish us out? It's election day. It's a big, big day for our country.
We have the like Dropbox ballots, so we've already put ours in. Voted the other day, last week, so it was pretty good.
I'm about to go stand in line here and tough it out at the in-person boxes, but I'm excited to have the right to vote, man. It's cool. I'll tell my story on here one day, but I haven't always had the right to vote. So to have it restored is a cool thing, and this will be my second time ever as an adult being able to vote. So I'm definitely going to use that, and hopefully everybody else has exercised that right too. It's the coolest thing about being an American is the freedom to do this.
It's super important too, especially like I've got a little guy, so he's only 2, and like the voting matters maybe like as much as people don't think about with the presidential at that stage, but your local stuff is super important too. Make sure you go do that because it definitely dictates, especially here in Colorado. Denver kind of takes over everything, and so what we do in our local community is super important for us.
It really matters. Yeah, it really does. And dude, that's like democracy only works if everyone gets out there and votes. If we only have 70% of the country doing that, that's 30% of your opinions that are not counted, and that makes a huge difference, especially when we're looking at this year where things seems very tight. I have no idea how, but it seems like it's going to be close. So it's an exciting / I'm a little anxious time for the United States, but I'm proud to be here and proud to be an American, and proud that we get to do this, because we could live somewhere else that tells us what to think, do, and how to talk, and that's not what we're about. So God bless America. God bless everybody. And until next time, y'all, we'll catch you later. And we're teaming up with the Rodeo Now app to help you do just that. The Rodeo Now app allows you to record, upload, and catalog your rides and runs, review your performances in slow motion, and our favorite feature, if you're not familiar with your stock draw, you can search your animal by name to get all the intel you need to make your next ride a winning one. Join the rodeo revolution today and download the Rodeo Now app for free. It's available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store.
If you want to learn more about our coaches and program options, make sure to swing over to our website at www.championlivingfitness.com. You can fill out the Become an Athlete form to set up your free consultation and have all your questions answered by a coach.